My first company that I've started was also in the insurtech space. And so you'd understand how big insurance industry is. It's really old industry, and it's big both by the by sheer amount of premium written. So about how much do we have? About over 600 billion in the United States being written every year. And when I say written premium, means the revenue. Annual revenue, it's 600 billion. And this is pretty much just property and casualty, which is your auto, your home, and life. So those three types of insurance together is 600 billion. I'm not going to compare it to the VDP of Ukraine, but it's a lot. Insurance in general, it's a very, very old business. You can see the numbers, they're insane. So in 1735, that was the first insurance policy written. That's back then when the Vikings still were roaming. No, you don't get it. One of the issues that we see in Silicon Valley especially is when cool guys from technology, they find something really exciting tech, and they think, well, only because we can figure something, a little small piece of it, we can bring it into established business and things will be different. And they call it disrupting. So there's a way to disrupt pretty much everything, right? The way Uber disrupted taxi by simply having an app. I mean, they haven't done anything special there. So, well, we're going to use the app and we're going to have a whole bunch of contractors doing it. But when in insurance industry, somebody trying to disrupt insurance industry, they ran into a huge problem because it's a regulated industry. And you can't just come up with something cool way of doing something and try to sell it to everyone and remain in business. So this is what we've been doing differently from the very beginning. Those are typical 5 areas where a lot of people think that AI can be used to improve things or make things better, because I don't like the word disrupt. And when we were thinking about Elafris as a company, I brought in my previous experience where we built another insurtech company, which was, do you guys know what is the usage-based insurance? Probably not. Do you know what the OBD device is? A little thing that gets plugged into the car and it reads the odometer, all kinds of information. So historically, those little devices were used to read the codes. You get your car, get the arrow codes, you go to the dealership, they plug it in, and they'll tell you what's wrong with it. So the smart entrepreneur said, well, why don't we use it to start tracking the mileage? I mean, how far you drive the car, how aggressively you drive the car. And that is being used to apply to the risk models. And the risk model is essentially, well, how risky you are to file a claim, or how much it's going to cost me to have you as my customer. So back in 2010, we thought, and that was my first startup, when we thought, well, why to use those devices when we have a smartphone? And a smartphone can be used to measure the way you drive in the car. And that's how we started the company. We started the company by thinking, well, there's a cool tech, there is an old technology, it should be easy, right? You go to an insurance company and say, why should you spend, back then it cost like 150 bucks. Why should you spend 150 bucks on buying a device where I have a smartphone, just tell everybody install an app and voila, here it goes. It didn't work that way. Because the insurance industry as a whole don't really care about the technology underneath it. They look at the, well, would we be able to sell it? Is the regulatory body will allow us to sell? What if somebody's going to sue us? That's what you have to take into consideration. So that was the big thing that we learned at my previous company, that you don't lead with technology. You have to lead with the business. You really have to understand, is there a business and what you're doing? And especially when you're going into established industry, it's not easy to disrupt it. So there is a saying that if you bring in innovation, it has to be 10 times better than what is already there, because the barrier of adapting a new thing is huge. So when I wish my co-founder Michael would be here, but when we're discussing building Elafris, the idea was, all right, it has to be an insurance because that's where my lot of experience is, but what exactly it's going to be? And that's the push for us was the actual case that happened to me where I got pulled over by a cop. The cop asked proof of insurance. And I don't know how in Ukraine, but in the States, you can use app to show that you have insurance, like proof of insurance. It's a small PDF, essentially, or picture that you can display on your phone. Of course, nobody has your insurance company app on the phone. Why would you do that? But I did have it. And as I showed to the cop on my phone, I launched an app and started updating itself. So the app updated itself. It was in a poor reception area, of course. And so I'm sitting there waiting for the app to update. The cop there is with the flashlight, right, flashing at me, and my wife is bitching at me. My kid is screaming. So it took about 10 minutes. Once I drove away, I was like, my wife tells me, hey, we're changing insurance. I'm like, why are we changing insurance? Because they suck. It's like, well, why do they suck? Well, because they didn't make it available to you what I needed. So in our mind, that was the idea. That's what we have to do. We have to build a bridge between insurance as a business and data that resides in the back end of some old system. You wouldn't believe what insurance company runs. I spoke to the guys. Which one of you know what is AS400? It's IBM. It's mainframe. So back in the Silicon Valley, you have insurance companies that still run in mainframe. They're still looking for people who can program COBOL or Fortran. So, and it's just insane. Why you still have it? Because it works. That's it. It works. It works, and it costs too much money, and it's too risky to replace it. So that's essentially what we ran into. We was like, well, what do we do? I mean, on one side, all this data sits already there. On the other side, you have this old business, which really don't want to invest in IT. And we decided to focus on virtual agents. So virtual agents, it's not something that I felt extremely passionate about or had a great understanding or knowledge in. I knew how insurance works. Michael, he has a lot of experience building scalable system, and that's when we decided, well, let's build some prototypes. Let's build some prototypes to understand if there is a business in it. Because everything else, so segmentation, claims, and repair, in our opinion, they produce a very marginal value, which you also have to prove. So if you look at the things such as segmentation, this is one of the hardest things to prove, which is work. So let's say there is a statistical model that can segment people based on historical data. So because the United States, the insurance history is about 100, 150 years, you can essentially look and you can have very precise model that will segment based on demographics data. So you come in and says, you know what? I think if we plug in social data, I don't know, whatever you're posting on Facebook, right, or Contact, whatever it is, I'm going to come up with the better way to estimate how likely you crash the car. Or I can just pull the pictures from Instagram and tell you which ones of you are going to file a claim faster or better, or going to lie to me. And in order for regulators to take it, they actually have to prove that the data that you're saying is relevant, actually is relevant. And we decided not to go there. So we said it's going to be virtual agents, which essentially means to the end customer, people like you and I, it's a new channel to communicate with our provider, which is insurance company. And for that, here we go. It's my favorite, right? It's once we started investigating, actually build. I mean, the NLP, the chatbots. It took a while in the back there to read it. The whole space is relatively new, right? It's been less than 2 years since Facebook actually opened their interfaces for the developers. Telegram had been long around, but I mean, in the States, nobody uses Telegram. So once we started looking and building the company around chatbots, I got plugged into a lot of Facebook groups, and there's this whole thing. Мы пилим ботов, right? And it's like, what the hell are you doing, people? Why are you doing this? It's the fact that it's a bot or a chat bot doesn't mean anything. It's just a way to automate a conversation. It doesn't mean it's the better way or worse way, or is it done properly or not. You really have to figure out what is the business case behind it. And as we were essentially thinking how our company will build, that's what we thought. We thought, first, let's build it as a communication channel. Let's connect insurance company and the consumer, and there's a new way called Facebook Messenger. They should talk to each other. Once we took this use case to the insurance company, they told us, well, can you do the support? Because we have a whole bunch of people whom we're paying a lot of money to man the calls, and they still don't do a good job. So yeah, that's how we thought. Then we should actually build a customer support. But once we put those two together, then we figured out, well, it should be an agent. It should be an agent that essentially can deliver the value that insurance company is supposed to deliver. And that goes beyond just a piece of paper. And once we knew that it's actually going to be a virtual agent or virtual insurance agent, that's when we start focusing on technology. That's when we figured out, all right, now we have to build the engine behind it that not only would do a lookup into some tables, knowledge tables, but also able to converse. And once you start conversing, here we go. Once you start conversing, so that thing's supposed to be insurance core systems. I need to fire whoever did the slide. So this is where the database, the insurance data sits. Elafris would sit, the platform would sit between it and between the client of your choice. And that's, again, another thing that we learned. Once we said, well, it can work on Facebook Messenger, the next question is, which obviously an insurance person would understand and ask, well, what if a person doesn't have Facebook Messenger? So besides obvious answer why you're living under the rock, but we said, no, we can support a typical SMS chat, which is either iMessage in iPhone or on Android. Android doesn't have their own system, right? They just general SMS. Right, next thing we added Alexa, Amazon Alexa on top of that, because apparently when you doing a salad at home and the next thing you want to know is the status of your claim. So that's definitely on our roadmap. And the WeChat, which is in Chinese, actually, it's a pretty good story. The other day I was talking to the guys in China, and they said that, I didn't know the statistics, 70% of retail happen actually in WeChat, in the Messenger, as opposed to the website. It's insane. Think of it, 70%, it's huge. So what they told me that now they have support in WeChat for the insurance, but there is no automation. So they were looking how to add AI or NLP, and for them it was a big deal that we can just, they can localize our system to simplify Chinese. Can we? It's not that simple, apparently. So the way once we build that product as an initial kind of like general thingy where it can do anything on insurance, again, we learn it's not, you have to be specific, you have to be focused. And as we start building the NLP engine, and well, first of all, we discovered that everything available is not good. IBM is not good, Facebook system, API AI, all those prepackaged NLP. I'm not even talking about the things like ChatFuel or ManyChat. That's completely out of question. Talking about the NLP. NLP is not good to take as is because it's not trained, the system's not trained. And you really have to get to the very narrow, we call it subdomains, to train so it will actually be incapable of understanding. And that's why we've broken it into different, I'll call them subverticals, but those essentially, all those are the workflows. So there is a workflow that insurance company knows today. For example, how to give you a quote. You're gonna call insurance company, you're gonna ask him, hey, how much are you gonna charge me for my, what's our favorite car here? Porsche, right? Panamera. So you're going to ask, hey, how much going to cost to insure my Panamera? They're going to ask you a set of very specific questions. They don't really care about anything but answers where you live, your age, in the States, it's marital status. They're trying to figure out how many people in the household and so forth. So that's how we start training our system, is breaking into a very narrow set of categories and building up the data sets in those specific categories. So the system actually is capable of figuring out what are the 1,000 ways you can answer to a very simple question: are you married? Or what are how many ways you can actually tell somebody what kind of car you're driving? It's relatively straightforward when you have a web form, make drop-down boxes. But if it's a free conversation, you have to be able to handle any of those possibilities. I drive Ford, my car is Mustang, I have a Mustang, I own a Mustang. And I don't know, I think in our data says there are more than 30 or 40,000 variation of the conversations like that. And then we broke in products into two major categories for agents and for brokers, simply because that's how business works. And we're just trying to feed the existing business model. And that is where I am going to pass the mic to Sergey. But essentially, we are taking one subdomain, is the how do you build a trained system for the NLP, and NLP for the quotes. So how do you essentially build the quote dialogue back and forth? You want to take it over from here?
Спасибо, Джейк. Я продолжу. В целом на этом слайде самое важное — это, собственно, dataset creation часть. Почему, скажем, уже Джейк упоминал API покойный, который нынче это Dialogflow. Почему не использовать что-то готовое? Потому что готового просто нет в принципе. Вот если вы хотите построить бота, который умеет отвечать на то, какая погода сейчас в Сан-Франциско, это, конечно, можно взять что-то готовое. Если у вас свой собственный кейс, свой собственный домен, своя предметная область, то нужно все делать самому, добывать самому, данные нужно собирать самостоятельно. И таким образом, если вы свои данные отдаете на API, например, могли раньше отдавать, сейчас там какие-то другие решения еще присутствуют на рынке, вы на самом деле развиваете не свой продукт, вы развиваете их решение, ваш продукт очень завязан на это стороннее решение, и, скажем, если с ним что-нибудь случится, например, как Google выкупит его и даст там, не знаю, в свободный доступ, то у вас все пропало, да, как говорится. Здесь, значит, снизу такая мотивирующая картиночка, да, как это все в теории работает. В какой-то момент мы решили, что такой типичный подход с чат-ботами не работает, когда мы просто задаем какой-то вопрос и ожидаем какой-то ответ. Этот ответ мы хотим проверить на наличие определенных ключевых слов. В нашем, скажем, use case мы решили, что намного перспективнее это будет работать не с конкретно словами, а с какими-то их, со словами в каком-то другом представлении. Вот, например, векторном. В технических лекциях, кто присутствовал, там упоминали Word вовек. Значит, сложности, с которыми мы, собственно говоря, столкнулись, их несколько. Во-первых, собирать датасет. Как его собирать? Собрать с интернета это проблематично, потому что, опять-таки, узкая предметная область, специфическая достаточно. Тут, может, видно плоховато, я буду озвучивать. Во-первых, то, что пишет пользователь, вы сами понимаете, это может очень сильно отличаться, и привязываться к какому-то словарю это просто неадекватно и неэффективно. Вот, например, как тут бот пишет, «Йоу, чувак, когда мне за страх бабло вываливать?» То есть он, во-первых, пишет с какими-то грамматическими ошибками, хотя человеку это все понятно. И сами понимаете, что в Facebook мессенджерах, в СМС, в СМС-ках это, может, менее распространено, но в мессенджерах все в основном так примерно и пишут. Вторая проблема – это то, что, скажем, данные, они зависят от контекста определенного. То есть, здесь, может, пример не самый удачный. Скажем, бот спрашивает, я хочу застраховать замок, и, поскольку здесь непонятно, да, куда я ставлю ударение, то бот не знает, что имеется в виду. Вот. В нашем случае это зависимость от контекста больше, наверное, означает, что то, что пользователь отвечает, очень сильно зависит от того, что вы у него спросили, и то, что он отвечал до этого. То есть этот фактор тоже нужно учитывать. Второй момент, вернее, третий, это если пользователь просто начинает писать какую-то фигню, мы хотим на эту фигню, тем не менее, как-то по-умному ответить. Скажем, где это может пригодиться, в каком случае, если вот типичный чат-бот, он задал вопрос, ожидает какой-то ответ. Пользователь написал ответ, он не отвечает непосредственно на этот вопрос, но он все равно релевантен для этой области. Например, в области страхования вы там страхуете только недвижимость, он спрашивает, я хочу застраховать свой автомобиль. Для вас это вроде как нерелевантно, и вы на это отвечаете, упс, я тебя не понял, если вы типичный чат-бот. Но на самом деле это полезная информация, и с этой информацией тоже нужно как-то работать. Далее пользователь, в принципе, может написать сразу много чего в нескольких предложениях, может в одном предложении. То есть стоит проблема в том, что в одном предложении, либо в одной, скажем, логической, вернее, семантической последовательности предложения, у него может быть несколько целей, да? Несколько intents, как это принято называть. Чтобы система, скажем, могла распознавать такие нюансы, нужно, соответственно, ее тоже на таких нюансах обучать. Важный момент, собственно говоря, зачем мы все это делаем? Почему так много нюансов, с которыми мы работаем? Потому что построить чат-бота, который просто задает вопросы, ожидает какие-то ответы и их парсит на ключевые слова, это во-первых, может сделать каждый, но, как это показано на примере Facebook, для которого сделали уже сотни тысяч ботов, и их никто не использует. Это неэффективно, людям такое не нравится. Проблема. Чем более гибкая ваша модель, тем, соответственно, больше ей нужно данных. Да, нужно больше данных. Примерно вот такой вид, как у кота у меня был, когда я осознал вообще объем работы, который предстоит сделать по сбору данных. Соответственно, были построены определенные внутренние у нас тулы для 3 таких важных шагов. Первый — это сбор данных. То есть удобный тул для людей, которые не технически подкованы. Там в основном, обычно это, кто больше всего работает с текстом? Это лингвисты, да? Специально обученные люди. То есть, во-первых, нужно, чтобы они эти данные внесли. Во-вторых, каким-то образом эти данные нужно перепроверить, потому что бывает такое, что люди пишут какую-то фигню, тоже на цепись. Третий шаг — это эти данные нужно обработать, осознать и как-то еще, если это возможно, автоматически либо полуавтоматически расширить. Вот такие вот внутренние тулы у нас были построены для такого пайплайна по сбору данных. Соответственно, после того, как этот тул построили, взяли определенное количество лингвистов, и, скажем, этот процесс уже пошел на поток, и, соответственно, можно достаточно быстро данные свои расширять, пополнять и работать с большим количеством кейсов для нашего чат-бота. Скажем, размышления и челленджи такие, которые у нас остались, результаты, которые мы достигли, немножко поговорю на эту тему. Во-первых, что в целом наша система достигла, это нелинейность разговора. То есть обычно чат-бот, у него есть какой-то сценарий, он вам их задает по очереди. Пока вы правильно на все вопросы его не ответите, он будет тыкаться и то же самое спрашивать. У нас, скажем, мы пошли по другому пути, наша система пытается понять, что ввел пользователь, и согласно этому строить дальнейший этот путь по нашему определенному сценарию. Скажем, это можно достичь только с гибкой системой, которая действительно распознает то, что пишет пользователь, а не просто ожидает от него определенный ввод. Поэтому, собственно, мы использовали AI-подход, а не rule-based подход при построении нашего чат-бота. Второй такой челлендж — это то, что я уже упоминал, multiple intents, когда человек пишет какую-то последовательность предложений, либо одно длинное предложение, либо одно короткое, но в нем сразу несколько семантических каких-то единиц. То есть, скажем, он хочет застраховать свой дом и тут же и говорит рядом: а живу я вообще в Калифорнии, а в Калифорнии сегодня солнечно. Например, он решил так написать. Здесь, соответственно, 3 интента у него. Первое — это он хочет застраховать. Второе — это он уже дал какие-то данные про недвижимость. Третье — это бесполезная информация для нас, но тем не менее мы даже должны распознать, что она бесполезная. Это не так-то и просто. А не пытаться из нее вытянуть какие-то параметры, которые, в принципе, бессмысленно даже пробовать вытягивать. Скажем, на тех данных, что мы собрали, типичный подход — это мы собираем n-ное количество данных, их разбиваем на 2 части. Первая — это на которой мы модель нашу обучаем, вторая — на которой мы, соответственно, тестируем, которую модель не видела. Вот на этих данных у нас получилось достигнуть достаточно высокие результаты, 98% точности. Поэтому, возвращаясь к предыдущему слайду, еще данных. Вот в определенный момент, когда у вас достаточно данных, у вас точность, соответственно, тоже выходит на высокий уровень. У меня, наверное, в целом все. Так что передам слово обратно Джейку.
Да, спасибо. Дальше по слайдам. This is where I essentially want to pound ourselves in the chest, because there are, like you said, over 100,000 chatbots that we built, and there are about, I think there are about 100,000 failed chatbots as well, pretty much all of them. And there is no chatbot company that specialized in insurance except us. And the insurance industry, it's the industry where the barrier of entry is extremely high because nobody really knows how to work with them. and most typical people who come out of insurance industry, they're not really entrepreneurs because there's no reason to innovate. You just sit there until you retire. We were able to get a lot of traction with the customers who already bought our solution and the ones who are already considering. And by the way, those guys, Progressive Insurance, they're the ones who were pioneers in building those OBD2 device, which they call snapshot discount. So they're pretty big shots here. And we can, the information we can report back is we had over 50,000 unique conversations, and that's where we measure the results, the 98%, that's where we come from. The 95% read rate, this is something extremely valuable to the marketeers on the insurance side, because it's the one thing to sell insurance policy, but then you want to sell other products because there's a called a holy trinity in insurance, which is home, life, and auto. So those are the three types of insurance policy any company wants to sell in the States. And typically they use auto insurance as a segue into your household because auto insurance is something that's being sold most frequently comparing to your life or homeowners insurance. And using a chatbot, that's the way you can actually market your other products. And the insurance quote conversion rate, this is when the chatbot offers to get a rate quote. It 4 times better converts than just simple web page, which is how rate quoting has been done historically. The company is growing really crazy. We have a couple open positions, which we hope to fill. And we invite you to come check our webpage, elafris.com. And I think that would conclude our presentation, official part. Welcome any questions, even the hard ones.
Спасибо, Джейк. Спасибо, Сергей. Давайте переступать к вопросам. Друзья, у кого есть, поднимайте руку смело. Вопросы? Есть, отлично. Самое главное начать.
Hello. Well, my question is, was it a hard solution to discard any third-party solutions and to choose to develop your own platform, your own like chatbot?
So you're asking if it was a hard decision?
Yeah, and if was it connected to the fact that you are the only chatbot company that works in the insurance?
Good question, thank you. So I personally know the CEO of API.ai. So when we essentially figure out, I think it was back in June 2016, yeah, June last year, when we figure out what we actually building as a company. So, and he was the first person that I got introduced from the, let's call it NLP space, right? So as Ilya and I sit down in Palo Alto, I was asking him, well, how you guys work? What do you have? What are your plans for the future? Because as we're building the company, we have to ensure that the IP that we're building, it's going to be ours and not somebody else. And once he described me how the system works, that's exactly what Sergey says. I understood it comes right away that whatever training you do, you train their system. Right? And that is where the problem is. You don't want to train somebody else's platform. Unless it's what they call it. So once we realized what it is, we said, all right, we cannot use something like API.ai because they actually give you domains. The next we're thinking, well, can we use Watson? Can we use IBM? Or can we use Luis? Or can we use Facebook has their own, right? No, that was... We were thinking about the IBM Watson was the biggest next competitor, and they just didn't have it handy enough. So the question is, with the decision, was it hard or not? I mean, that was just, it was obvious. We had to do it. The fact that we're the only ones who are focused on insurance didn't have anything to do with that. But it's funny how I see there were a lot of, so when the Facebook opened the interface for the chatbots, I mean, overnight you had probably 300 companies that were building chatbots in travel industry, all those travel agents. Then you saw as many building some calendar appointments and other. And only few were figuring out, well, we have to find a niche. a good friend of mine, Oleg, he works for People AI. I know they also have offices here. They choose the direction of going to the sales, how you automate sales and make sales better, right, by using NLP and AI. So for us, it was, well, we have to have our own system. It has to be trained by us. We have to own the data, and we have to be future-proof from somebody open it up. Because we didn't know, he didn't tell me, obviously, they're going to sell to Google, right? I mean, I still cannot get out of him how much Google paid them, but that's not the point. If you use somebody else, you're at the mercy of their strategic decisions. If you build your own, that means it's going to be 100 times harder because you actually have to you have to build a team, but the results are yours. So whether it's good or bad, it's yours, right? So you own it, you're accountable for it. Yes?
Well, my question is about the data quality. As far as I get, you're learning on the actual conversations which took place between the agent and the client, right? Potential client. And the issue could be with the data quality. And for example, we learn from this conversation which took place. But what were the consequences of this conversation? Let me show you a very particular and my personal example. I got a call from an insurance company, and the lady was asking whether I was willing to buy or to purchase a new insurance policy. Well, I say, well, let's take a look. How much does it cost? She asked. The first question is, have you got the car accidents the last year? And I honestly confess, yeah, I get a couple of them. She said, well, it complicates. And your wife, maybe we should issue an insurance policy in her name and get a 0.5% discount. So the lady who was selling me this policy, she just dropped the insurance company in half of the insurance premium, decreasing the actual level of risk. So this was a very showing example of the bad and adverse conversation which took place. Whether you separate the really successful conversations, really good data from the bad data, where the agent was not behaving as he or she was supposed to do. So the question is about the data quality which you use in training the algorithms. Thanks.
I'm trying to think what could go wrong in this case. So first of all, the way we started to create data sets, it's slightly different. We got a lot of data from insurance call centers, which we took as a baseline. On top of that, we've built, using linguists and other processes, we expanded it. And the learning piece comes after it's being deployed, right? So first, the system has to be able to understand all the possible answers, and then figure out, okay, what am I going to ask next? So your question goes more towards conversion, right? What is the better selling techniques versus...
Not exactly. I was referring to what happens next after the client purchases the insurance policy, whether it will be a place for adverse selection, say. So not underestimating the risk you are taking.
Okay. So there is, in the States, it's very regulated. So the adverse, they have to know certain answers from you before they can give you a quote, right? You can also lie on those answers, because there's historical data showing the more questions you ask, the less chances somebody's going to drop out in the middle of those answering those questions. Yet, it is clear that unless I know everything about you, I cannot give you an accurate quote. It's simply impossible. I have to get the data inputs from somewhere. So I can ask you, well, do you have any accidents? You're going to say no. All right, I can take your answer, the face value, and plug in no into my system, and I'm going to give you an answer back. So you know what? Based on what you just told me, it's going to be $100 a month. It's like, all right, cool. Let's proceed to the next step, where I actually have to ask, well, what is your driver's license number? Or what is your social security? I mean, we use that parameter in the States. So then it gets plugged into the insurance data systems, and we get pulled out the real data on you, not what you just told me, but because all the claims being reported into one place. So, but then again, that costs money. So for the insurance company, they have to balance it really carefully. How many questions I ask to give you something back as an offer or the quote, yet that quote has to be within the ballpark of what's the real thing will happen. Because if I'm telling it's going to be $100, it's like, all right, cool, proceed. Then I'm going to take your data, plug it in, and the answer comes back, it's not $100, it's actually $500. You're like, what the hell? You just told me it's $100. Like, yeah, but I didn't know everything about you. So the adverse selection can't really happen based on the question and answer. It can only happen using other areas. So in the previous example, when I was talking about the using driving data, there's a lot of that happens in using driving data to determine your risk, where they ask people, how many of you are willing to be monitored to get a discount? Everyone who will raise their hand, all right, I want you already, because you just said yes. I don't even have the data, but the fact that you will be tracked, right? Here it's slightly different because whether or not you lie to me, I still have to verify on the back end, and it comes up then.
Еще вопросы? Есть? Отлично.
Do you have use cases when a bot cannot figure out about message and a real person is engaged?
Yes, excellent question. So this is one of the things that, again, no platform offers you by default. Whereas when we were building our system, we knew that, of course, bot is not going to be smart enough. And the way we've designed it, so it will not get stuck in that, sorry, I didn't understand the question, endless loop. We've figured out that if a bot understands, then it doesn't understand, which I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but you can think it's not that hard. At that point, what do we do next? So the chatbot then will actually proactively bring somebody from the insurance support side to take over the conversation. So the idea here is not to use the fact that it's a chatbot as a marketing tool, because think about it, when you're a consumer, do you really care who answers your question on the other side? You just want to get an answer as soon as possible, because when I got pulled over, I want to get my insurance ID card right away. I didn't care whether it's get teleported, sent with, with the DOF or email. Just show it to me. Now, the same thing when you need to process a payment, you want to file a claim, you just type what happened. And at that point, the chatbot has to figure out, all right, did I understand what you want? Or is it just too hard for me? Then I'm going to bring the person in the back. So to the end user, it's going to be completely seamless.